You are now tuned in to DAR Sports Media, and we are here with another media base. Of course, it is spooky season, so this month, the top 15 horror villains has been the most popular article up on the Medium site. We are going to get you something special for spooky season. The popular article is the top 15 horror movie villains, and we're going to jump into that right now with a man who was digging in, who has studied the industry for year after year after year. He is a music engineer in film. He is my man, James Metzger, one of my new best buds recently made, and we're going to dig in. He is going to be our subject matter expert for the night, and let me tell you something, you guys are in for a treat. Our guy Drew, probably popping in later on as we go along here. So we're going to go straight into a personal favorite of mine and a personal experience of mine. When anybody asks, when they post these things on Twitter, when they post these on social media, what was the first movie that traumatized you? Let me tell you something right now. I was about 8 years old. I think it was about 7. Because my mom was extremely irresponsible and let me watch the It miniseries from the 90s, which fucked me up as a little kid. I was fucking terrified of storm drains. I was fucking terrified of the toilet. I was fucking terrified of shower drains. All of it. And of course, I mean, I think this had something to do with it, but a lot of people clowns was a whole nother level of fucking terrifying. Aside from all those things, tell us about It, Pennywise. I don't know how much explanation or exposition is truly required to explain why this is a horror icon. A lot of people are afraid of clowns. A lot of people love the Stephen King lore. It's so good. It's so popular for a reason. And both guys, Tim Curry in the 90s and the 80s, and Alexander and Bill Skarsgård, I believe, in the new versions of It, both of them different, but also electrifyingly terrifying portrayals of this character. Tell me a little bit about it, man. Pennywise the clown, number up here at the top.
Right, absolutely. I'm with you. I also, granted, it wasn't 7 or 8, but I definitely, at a young age, first experienced the It miniseries and Tim Curry in all his Pennywise glory. And it's one of those things that I can't imagine exactly what my experience would have been if I saw it for the first time later in life, but I have a suspicion, and based on what I've heard from other people, that it would still affect me in deep and dark ways, because there's just something so truly innately evil about Pennywise in and of itself. Just the clown set up on its face, because of course. We could be on here for hours going into the deep layers of how Pennywise came to be in terms of the space and time travel that is involved and the shape shifting that's involved. But just the clown aspect itself, like you said, everybody has something deep inside them where clowns they just strike a nerve and they affect us. And so when I likewise was young and I first experienced it, the miniseries version, it definitely affected me. Same, any street storm drain became a obstacle to avoid. Anything, balloons, something like balloons, red balloons, but even just any balloon in general after that, something so joyful and so happy. Like, I have a 2-year-old kid right now who is in love with balloons, but every time I see a balloon, I can't not help but think of its involvement in the It series. So it's one of those things where that's the thing. Like you, I experienced the mini series first. So to me, historically, Tim Curry's Pennywise has always affected me the most and been the one I go to. But absolutely, Bill Skarsgård, he's been doing great. He's been doing a variety of things over the years. Of course, he just did such a great job as Count Orlok in Nosferatu, but for sure in It as well. And now, like you said, the legacy just continues to go with now we've got It Welcome to Derry. Did you happen to catch the first episode yet?
No, I haven't. I've heard things. I'm kind of waiting until the whole thing is out
Yeah.
to watch it, just because when I'm like so into an IP like that, I like to like watch it all at once. Like I don't want to wait, you know what I'm saying, in between episodes. So
Hmm.
I haven't seen it yet, but I went because so many people were talking about this first scene, so I went and looked it
Yep.
up and just read what happened. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, sounds like they're getting after it here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's good so far. Um and that's the thing. I love it itself, Pennywise the clown. I do love going into deeper layers of it. Sometimes it can get a little bit much.
Yeah,
But I think that's the thing with Stephen King is like with so many of his characters and so many of his stories, there's just always so many layers. Whether they primarily take place in Maine or end up going outside of Maine. It's one of those things where he just has a gift for that, and so in terms of connecting people around the world with stories, especially scary stories, because again, there's something that strikes at the core of us, strikes a nerve, and again, like you at a young age when I first experienced that, and in particular with a villain that I'm sure we'll talk about very soon coming up, it's something that just stays with you. So yeah, love it and love Pennywise, and love that it's keeping fresh for newer generations to hop on and keep it going.
so funny story. Guess who I went and saw the new It with? Our buddy Johnny.
I was gonna say, there you go.
Yeah,
Awesome.
me and him went and saw it together. It was at a dine-in, one of the dine-in movie theaters, and
Mm.
the fucking people working there released goddamn balloons into the theater while we were watching the movie. It was quite a fucking day. So contrast and compare. Which one do you have a preference on which It portrayal? Which movie series do you think was done better, or is
Right.
it Push? Is it a Push? Because to me, it's like you could say things about the portrayals and the qualities of the movies and how the 90s series is a little bit campy, but to
Hmm.
me, they both served their absolute purpose in the time in which they were released. So for me, it's a
Hmm.
push. Like
Hmm.
Tim Curry, obviously Skarsgård they're just completely different. But like to me, even to this day, Tim Curry is so fucking terrifying in that role.
Yes.
Like, so to me, it's a push. They both served exactly what they needed to be at the time of which they came out.
Exactly. I 100% agree. I'm right there with you. I mean, yeah. See, here's the thing. I can completely hear certain folks be like, "Oh, I like it a little bit more darker with the newer series, newer movies, and now the newer show." But that's the thing with me. Even though there are parts that are campy, as a kid, that '90s thing, that late '80s, '90s thing, like growing up with that, that is something I crave because I grew up with, Tim Burton's Batmans, and that's
Yeah,
my personal favorite version of Batman because they've
yeah,
got
that's
that
my
camp in
Batman.
there.
That's what I call him. When I
Exactly.
watched a short detour, when the Flash came out, that was like part of what hurt. Well, was great about it, but also hurt. I'm like, that's my Batman. Like all these other Batmans are good, but that one right there, that one's mine. And he kind
Right.
of like lost in this movie, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. But yeah, so same thing. I remember when I was a kid, I used to because we had the box set, the It box set, and I would speak about it in like hushed tones when I was about to show it to somebody. Like, I'm about to change your fucking life when we watch this movie. So there's a really good documentary about that original It movie, um, and they said that they were really struggling at the beginning because the director had like a certain vision of what he wanted Pennywise to be, and he's like going back and forth with Tim Curry, and they had all these prosthetics and all these things that they were like putting
Hmm.
on him, and somebody during the production said to him, if you're gonna use prosthetics and cover up this person and you're gonna use all this direction, then why the fuck did you hire Tim fucking Curry to do this? And when that got said, to their credit, the filmmakers and the director kind of like that's when the light bulb went off. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, what are we doing all this for? We have Tim Curry. And then they just kind of let him go. And
Hmm.
we got what we got. That scene where the picture comes alive and the dude's on the stilts and he looks back and notices them watching and walks into the fucking frame. Oh my god.
Hmm.
To this day, just fucking chilling. Next up on the list, the Xenomorph from the Alien series.
Hmm.
This is interesting because it's like the border of sci-fi slash horror, but it's still an iconic figure that's related with terrifying imagery and a scary movie. So go ahead, man. Xenomorph.
Right. Yeah. So likewise, again, early age was able to. So here's one of the beautiful things about a lot of these villains and a lot of these movies is I don't know about you, but I grew up in a small town in New Jersey, and I had a local video store, independent video store, that was pushing VHSs back when I was growing up. I literally, it's so funny and embarrassing to admit, but I was a classic late 80s, early 90s kid who had, Jinko, jean shorts with huge pockets. I could literally fit a VHS tape in, my two
Okay, so
front
you were at the
pockets.
cutting edge of fashion back then. There ain't nothing to fucking be embarrassed
Exactly,
about. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
right, baby.
So I anytime I got the chance, every week when I got my allowance for doing my chores, I would hop on my bike, ride down to the local video store, 4 Star Video, shout out. I would get whatever VHSs I could, and once I got to an age where they stopped caring whether or not I was actually technically of age to be able to get these rated R movies, they just started letting me have them. So they had a deal where it would be like get 5 VHSs for $5 for five
Yeah,
days,
five
and
dollars,
so
$5. I have talked. Yo, what's crazy about that is you grew up in Jersey. I grew up in Northern California. I have talked about the exact same thing on this podcast before. Five
there you
dollars,
go.
5 movies, 5 days. Fuck yeah.
It truly in terms of rentals, the golden age, like being able to have that experience and consume that much media in that amount of time for such little money. Yeah, again, just a kid with his allowance money, and so it was a beautiful thing. So literally, I went and got all 4 of the Alien movies that had been out by that point. So of course, we got Alien, Aliens. Alien 3 or Alien Cubed, and then we've got Alien Resurrection. And I watched, and some other movie, throw in a classic pick, 90s movie pick, and I was able to watch all of them back to back, and it completely transformed me. And it was one of those things where, yes, again, like Pennywise, there's something about the xenomorph that continues. And again, like it in Pennywise, now has its own show, a new show with Alien Earth, which I watched, and it's great. I highly recommend it. Um, Something about the xenomorph, whether it has now finally ended up on Earth or it's in space, whatever setting you ended up putting it in, or whether it's the alien itself or Alien versus Predator, or any of the other crossovers that have been able to happen over the years, there is something that is fundamentally terrifying about whether it's an alien or not, just a monster. And however it was created, I know some people get into the weeds in terms of the Alien Prometheus and Alien Covenant origin story of it. Some are a fan of it, some are not. I take the good with the bad, but there is something about the xenomorph itself from every stage. You've got the face hugger, implantation, gestation stage, to the chest burster, shedding its skin, evolving into a full-grown adult xenomorph that literally is just there to kill. There's been debate over the years of whether or not it actually serves any other purpose in terms of whether or not it actually eats. Or does anything else aside from just killing. Of course, you've got the queen who does the killing and the laying of the eggs, but still, it's something to its core, especially with the design. You got to give all credit to H.R. Giger for coming up with the artwork for it so many years ago, and the fact that the people who were around at the time to not only put the movie together, friends of John Carpenter, again, who's going to make another connection to a movie villain we're going to talk about again soon. It's just something that when everyone was able to come together, Dan O'Bannon and his friends, and create just true cinema movie magic. It's still to this day, I think Ridley Scott peaked early in terms of the first movie with Alien. I think it's his best movie ever made. I think Aliens, James Cameron, you got to take James Cameron with a lot of grain of salt in certain things, but I think Aliens is a masterpiece. I think it's perfect. Personally, I always lean towards Alien again because that was my first love, even though I watched them back to back. Alien, for whatever reason, has just always hit me harder in terms of the darker themes, even though I absolutely am a run and gun action lover as well in terms of James Cameron's take. But here's the thing: even Alien Cubed, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, I absolutely love them. Prometheus and Covenant. Obviously, I think Prometheus, like most folks, I think it's a little bit better than Covenant, but I still think there's good to take from both. But also, there's a lot of Ridley Scott, late stage Ridley Scott that you definitely got to hold your nose at. But once you get through it, it's great. And now Alien Earth, I think it's great, and so I love it. Oh, and of course, Alien Romulus.
So I think one of the things that taps into the psyche with the alien is that it's technically the perfect organism, the perfect life
Hmm.
cycle, but something that is perfection is also so fucking grotesque. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, I think that's kind of the mental thing that we're playing with that's at work there. Our guys, True and Deshaun, have joined the chat. We actually skipped the first grip on the list because True, I wanted to get from your mouth why you included this particular group and what your perspective is on it. It's the actual first people on this list of horror movie villains is the Armitage family from Get Out.
So, so first, if you actually think about it, I wish my guy would be here because it wasn't just me who did this article. It was
Yeah.
myself and Speed. So Speed and I, both did it. Speed chose that family. He chose them,
Oh, yeah.
but we had a conversation about it while we were doing the list. We picked them together, but there was a couple people. I was thinking about putting like Hellraiser. I think Hellraiser's on the list.
Yeah.
I was thinking like other people from like The Ring. Just other villains that you could go with. And I think what the family in Get Out represents, I think they represent uh, a lot of things, especially for social commentary at the time and in general. And then how devious they were. I mean, it was the most obvious like plot twist to me because we already saw like the preview, but like it was the most obvious plot twist. But they were just downright evil and they did not care. So I think
Yeah.
that was what made it what it was for me is that like they just didn't care. They were using black bodies for you know just to keep their lineage alive. And so it's something that is, organ harvesting is something that people have talked about in the past and in general, and then body harvesting, like all that stuff. It's just such a sick, sadistic thing to do in a film, especially in a film where it's just some regular dude who is just, it's not like an athlete, not like like we've seen horror movies where like people want, just big, muscular, athletic bodies. They want this, they want that. Like, that's not what this family is. They don't care who you are. They're just like, hey, you have this, we need that. And that is what I think makes them such disgusting villains. And I don't even consider Get Out a horror movie per
Well, and
se.
just the allegory that they make to bigger picture things about how the complete lack of empathy or
Yeah,
and dehumanization of your fellow man that it represents on a
Hmm.
bigger scale. We're kind of seeing a lot of that showing up right here this weekend that this is coming out with
yeah,
things that are happening in our country right now.
Hmm.
The complete lack of the complete dehumanization of your fellow man and the complete lack of empathy for them. Just being used as whatever you need to use them for with no no the lights are on but no one's home from these folks.
right.
Deshaun, do you fuck with Get Out at all? You got any thoughts on the whole Armitage family as a horror icon?
Yeah, I watched Get Out. I did. The first time I watched Get Out, I ran out the movie theater. I was I, I was a little sad. I was a little hurt. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I even left my old lady up in there. She was like, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" And I'm like, "Man, fuck out of here. Let's go." That's how like messed up I was in the head about that movie. And then I had to watch it a couple times. But movies you got to sit with them a little bit. So I sat with that
Hmm.
movie probably a couple more times, and I was like, "Oh, y'all some horrible people. Y'all are sick." But I understand, like low key, like how True said it. It was basically they didn't care who you was. I just need that.
Yep.
I don't care what it is. I don't care who you is. I need that. I don't care how I get it, but I'm finna get it.
So
Like, go ahead.
another one I was excited for you guys to get on here for, and then we'll bring James back in too because we were talking about things in our childhood affecting us, and this one slant. This is right up there with me with Pennywise for like the level of trauma that this, like, literal phobias, like not going into the bathroom like with the light off and shit like that when I was a little kid, because again my mother was extremely irresponsible and somehow I was exposed to these fucking movies when I was like 7 years old. Fucking Candyman. It's not just it's a hood classic, right? True. But then this expands upon all fucking races and backgrounds, because it fucked my shit up too in rural fucking Northern California. Tell me about Candyman.
I wouldn't even consider it was a hood nightmare more so than a classic. Yeah. Like growing up, like Candyman was like they couldn't have picked a better actor to get that one. They couldn't have picked the casting, man. It's just perfect, and it's so creepy, and it's just so it like makes your skin crawl at the thought of like what, like, because this is someone who, like, even though the concept was what it was, this could be somebody, especially the reason why he became even that
he himself was a fucking victim.
Yeah. And so it's like, that is something that, there are plenty of people who've been, wronged and especially for reasons that are ridiculous in reality. And when you look at that and you see that, that's what makes it scary, because it's like, well, technically, like, is this not, and that's a lot of things in a lot of movies when we talk about villains, right? Like, is this villain somewhat justified, or is this like, is the reasoning somewhat justified? And we try to find it. Candyman was one where, like I said, I just was scared shitless of Candyman as a kid, and especially with like the bees and all of that stuff. I was like, no, I'm good, man. I don't want any of that like at all. But I think the one thing I will say about horror movies, especially with iconic characters, is that horror is the genre to me where they don't know when to quit. And I think with Candyman, it's kind of like that, where they just didn't know when to quit, but you still had an iconic casting, and you picked the perfect person to play that villain. And I think that, and not even really a villain, just that someone who can give you fear. Just their mere presence alone can give you fear, and then you add everything else into it, and it was just, like I said, it's just iconic. I think you can't book, since you and I, Eric, you can't book it any better than that. You can't book it any better than that with someone that has presence. I mean, he's been in a ton of horror movies. He was in Final Destination.
Yeah, there you go.
Which like just recently. So he's just, man, and rest in peace to that brother. I mean, obviously that was
Tony Todd.
Tony Todd's the fucking man.
Yeah, we lose so many great actors and great people that kind of stick with us since we were kids, you know what I mean? And that's like, I like my cousin, rest his soul. He was scared of Tony. He was scared of Tony. It didn't matter what he was in. Like, I think he was in like a commercial or something, and he was like, "Hey man, that's Candyman. Fuck that. Fuck, that's Candyman." Like, I'm never like, "Nah, man." Like, he would just be scared. He would just be scared like every single time. He's like, "Nah, man, no." And so when I wrote that part and selected, because Candyman was on my selections, and it just was like, yeah, like, it's just like I said, part of your childhood, as you mentioned, Eric, not a part of our childhood that we probably should have been watching, of course, but part of our childhood regardless.
So, Deshaun, you're a little bit younger than the group here. Do you have any Candyman?
Not that. He's not that much. He's not that much.
Hey, this bro said he was 8 years old when Ha came out. I was well in a teenager. So
I wasn't. See, I wasn't. So I wasn't. So I wasn't a teenager then. So, you know what I mean? Like, he ain't that much younger.
Drew, I'm going to enter you into the horror movie villains if you don't taking over these questions. Deshaun,
that's what I'm here to do. First of all,
what's your history with Candyman?
Candyman, Candyman is funny because I done got pushed into a bathroom by all my cousins with the lights off, and got said Candyman 3 times. I'm turning to Chucky from Rugrats. I'm scared.
Yeah, remember? Well, I think we all did that there when we were that age, though, right? Like,
I was like, how True said. Basically, Tony Todd scared his cousin. Tony Todd scared me in anything. It didn't matter what he was. I knew that was Candyman. Like, I just knew it. He wasn't nothing else to me. So like, I was scared. I was always scared of Tony Todd all the way up until he passed. R.I.P. to that man.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
James, tell us about Candyman, bro. This is a good iconic movie, great lore, just iconic casting, incredible stuff, man. Tell us a little bit about Candyman there, James.
Exactly, and thank you all for sharing. Yeah, I agree. Not only iconic, but whether it was a movie or a show or or whether it was a commercial, yeah, it's just Candyman. Incredible story, incredible character, but also one of the saddest stories and most traumatic experiences that anyone could ever imagine. So the beautiful thing about these movies is again they've carried not only through their original sequels but through the modern now you could call it a legacy sequel if you want with the newer Candyman version that came out recently again. What I love about all of them, from what you guys have been saying, is the innate, not only the innate terror and the innate fear and the social commentary that comes with it, but also I love the connections that you said. So you've got Tony Todd, who not only brings us connected to Final Destination, but you've also got, leading back to the Armitage family and Get Out, you've got Jordan Peele helping to produce the newer Candyman movie. So the fact that Jordan was able to not only make it out and have it be as incredible as it was, but for it to make as much of a cultural impact as it was, that he was then able to build up his own production company, Monkey Paw, and then lend his influence and support to other filmmakers and writers and creators in the horror genre who are coming through, and now whether it's putting out the newer Candyman, or helping to put out shows or movies, any new material that comes along that he gets behind. It's a beautiful thing. And even though they're not on the list, the fact that you had the huge back and forth battle for weapons that Jordan Peele got so heated over. Like, I mean, that's the thing I completely understand. I just watched Weapon myself and can completely appreciate anyone trying to get their studio behind it. So, but it's just whether or not any movie ends up coming through Monkey Paw. Just the idea that Jordan Peele and others are carrying these stories forward is just such a beautiful thing.
Speaking of carried forward and have been around forever, James, me and you last week we were deep in a conversation about a film series that kind of became a parody of itself, where the first one is very serious and very artsy and very good, and then it kind of becomes kind of silly and fun and over the top. We were talking about Rambo. And our next person on the list is very emblematic about that. There's a lot of people, there's a whole generation that has no idea that the original Chucky movie was fucking terrifying and fucking traumatic and fucking crazy. Crazy when the first Chucky movie came out. Legendary stuff. It is genuinely unnerving and frightening to this fucking day. All the stuff that came out, it's become this huge franchise that's come out of it. A lot of kind of parody, over the top, fun, silly stuff. But the original Chucky, he's right up there with all the horror icons. He's always involved in everything that gets put out that has to do with horror icons. Talk to us about Chucky, man, the original, and what the IP has become. Less serious, but wildly popular.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So likewise with the others, Chucky continues trucking on, whether it's the new movies or a newer show. The beautiful thing is that it's again something about a toy, a doll. We all have some, whether it's a toy, a doll, a figurine. We all have something like that either in our homes, when we're young, or to the point where we get older and we hold on to collectibles that we had from when we were young, or characters that we grew up with, or we just continue to collect, down to, whether it's Funko Pops or any other matter of memorabilia. These little figurines, just the idea that they could come alive, and the fact that, okay, there are ones that could come alive and they could be good and they can help us out, like in small soldiers. or there are ones like Chucky, where somehow some guy in the winter of Chicago, getting gunned down, and then ending up in a toy department store, and somehow using voodoo and transferring his spirit, his soul from his corporeal form into the Chucky doll, playing off of the Good Boy doll, or My Buddy doll, from decades ago. The fact that someone's sinister soul could end up in a doll like that, which could end up in a home with a child, and then all the chaos that could ensue from that, it's just terrifying, and it's one of every parent's worst nightmare. Whenever I am trying to tuck my 2-year-old in at night, and there's just that little brief second when I close the door and I close the lights, and I see her stuffies and her dolls, and I'm just wondering what could possibly happen overnight. It's terrifying.
So I have a very small. So we had a doll. So I lived a large portion of my childhood with my grandparents, and my grandma had some dolls, some old dolls from like when she was a kid. They're like faded and creepy as fuck. And one night I'm getting in the bed, and she takes one of the dolls and she comes around the corner and she says, "Chucky says goodnight." And my grandfather is like the most archetypal blue collar badass, like barroom brawler, like was a Golden Gloves boxer in the army. He's a bad motherfucker. He's 88 and still goes camping in the woods and sleeps in a tent outside when he goes camping. At 88 years old, he's a fucking stud. Even he was like, that was too fucking far. That was mean. He's fucking scared. And he let me come in their room and like put up a little tent and sleep in their room. Like he would never abide that otherwise. But the fucking Chucky thing was so fucking scary. And he knew I was so goddamn terrified by that little stunt. Even he was like, that was too fucking much. Like, he's just a little kid. He can come in here and fucking sleep. Fucking crazy, man. Chucky was something else.
This story is hilarious. I'm sorry for laughing. This story was hilarious.
It's funny now.
Yeah. Not any doll scared me. Like, so Chucky is number one on my list. Because a doll, you can get into nooks and crannies. You can be sleepy. You can be around your neck. Like, the craziest stuff. So, like, dolls. So, like, Elf on the Shelf. The little dolls from Tales in the Hood.
Okay, no, yeah. Okay, so you said it. I was going to end this part of the segment. I was gonna we're gonna talk about that because it's kind of a sleeper, but that's like to me that's the number 2, like dolls in a scary movie. Yeah. The dolls from fucking Tales in the Hood are fucking out of hand. That whole thing is out of hand. Anyways, go ahead. You're fucking 100%.
The best one.
Yep.
So like that movie right there itself, like a horrible human being. Soul is basically trapped into a doll, and the doll goes home with a child, and now it's trying to like end life, and you can't do nothing about it because it's hiding in like the smallest of places.
Well, and what's crazy too is it played on one of the. I feel like this is less of a trope now, but back then, like the big trope was like adults didn't really like give a fuck what kids said, right? Like they don't believe nothing that kids say. So like the boy is trying to tell everyone for the whole movie, this fucking doll is alive and he's fucking killing people. Like you have to stop him. And nobody's fucking listening to him. And the doll can tell that the kid's snitching. And so like he's getting into more and more danger as the movie continues to go on. It's fucking...
I don't really have a big affinity for Chucky. Like, it's just I always found him to be kind of funny. Like, that's pretty much it. Like, just a funny, weird ass evil doll. The first Child's Play was terrifying. It probably wasn't as terrifying to me because, like, growing up, I ain't really, my childhood didn't really have dolls around. Like, none of my family members really had dolls. They had a couple action figures here and there, but not really a thing that was like a part of my childhood. So when I saw Chucky, it wasn't as terrifying to me as it might have been for other people. I was just like, oh, it's kind of funny. I just thought it was funny, like the concept of like, oh man, if a dog came to life and started killing people, it's kind of funny.
Okay, well, something that was not fucking funny at all was those fucking dolls in Tales from the Hood. So I know you know about that. So tell me about that.
Now, see, those are different. Those are different because those are the ones like you go to your grandmama house, you go to your aunt's house, and like You
Those
know, when you
paintings
go
on the
to
wall.
yeah,
Yeah.
you goes down south. You go to your family down south. I got family in North Carolina, family in New Orleans. You go down to New Orleans. You already know that's a thing down there, and it makes you feel like, all right. I watched my first time I watched Tales from the Hood, man. I remember just sitting there and I'm just like, this all hitting a little too close to home. Like this is hitting a little too close to home.
Just that, I mean that, but also just like, and I was talking, I think it was Cam that posted something about this, and I said, I feel like they don't make things like this anymore that literally like imprint on your fucking psyche, like the fucking dolls that will never leave me. The end of the movie, you know what I'm talking about, will never fucking leave me. Like,
Yep.
holy fucking shit. The abusive dad, when the kid makes the fucking drawing and bends it all up and he bends the abusive dad's shit all up, will never fucking leave me. James, do you know what we're talking about? Have you seen Tales from the Hood?
Yes, I absolutely have, and I absolutely agree with all the points that have been made in relation to this. And I was just going to say, I love it to the fact that we had recently in the news, the speaking of Louisiana, we had the Nottoway resort and former plantation, although people could still argue part of the plantation kept living on, but not no more because now that it burned down. And I just love the fact that in all the hilarious memes that were made, someone took the time and made the connection to the dolls from Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Hood, and it was able to put that in there and be like, these dolls probably had something to do with this house burning down, this plantation.
That's awesome. Yes, that's fucking perfect. Anybody out there, I don't imagine anybody who listens to this podcast has ever not seen Tales from the Hood, but if you haven't, absolutely go check it out. Next up on the list, Hannibal Lecter. I don't know, imagine that was a true pick. That must have been from the other feller.
No, that's my pick.
Okay, no, tell me about it then, partner. Shit.
Look, I think there's nothing more terrifying than a very old white man serial killer. Like
Mhm.
that's one of the most terrifying things, especially extremely intelligent as Hannibal Lecter is, and like he got more. I think he got more terrifying in the later movies, like Red Dragon, like Hannibal. Like they made him more of a monster to me in that way because Silence of the Lambs, like what he is, and you see that, but like he's also spending his time helping to like take down someone else at the same time. So it's like it's a weird like this is a monster, but he's also this with like Red Dragon and Hannibal. I think even with the newer stuff that they're putting on, he's not like a horror like a I'll say it was one of my choices, but it was also one of Speed's choices as well. So we both kind of were like, Silence of the Lambs is not like your typical horror movie. It's not your typical franchise where you go to, what I mean? Like, it's not like where you're like it's like a whole bunch of jump scares. This is someone who you could find that at a facility. Someone who is, trying to be quote unquote, like this is someone you could, and I think that's what makes it so terrifying. Not to me in a way where I'm like, if I saw somebody like that, I'd probably beat him up. But like someone else, like if you're just someone, especially with the mind games that he's playing on Clarice and all that stuff like that, and then I know they did like I think Julianne Moore was in, and so
it's mother right there.
Huh?
All time, all time.
Yeah, so
top five dead or alive.
But so with her replacing Jodie Foster, I think it gave a different element almost, like where it was more of a like almost a romantic element, like a romantic element. Like I didn't buy the Jodie Foster thing in Silence of the Lambs. I mean, no offense to Jodie Foster, so I don't really buy that, but I bought it more in later installments. But I think just for me, just Hannibal Lecter just represents one of the more realistic villains that you could have in this, and that's what it was for me. Like Pennywise, like some weirdo could dress up like a clown and try to kill people and do that stuff, but you're not going to be like a shape-shifting entity like Pennywise. You're not going to be that. Like that's not something. I mean, like I said, you never know what's really out there, but for the majority of us, we're not going to run into that. But you could run into someone who's as sick and twisted because we see that. We can watch the ID channel and these documentaries on Netflix. I mean, they give Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer fucking documentaries and shit like that, and like so that's why I think a Hannibal Lecter is that, because he's he's kind of in that vein. Obviously, not exactly the same, but he's in that vein of someone where it's like this dude is a cannibal. He's eating people's brains and ate his liver with some fiber. Like it's stuff like that where it's like there are people out there who really are into the shit, and he could be that. So that's for me what made him be on my list, because it's like he's probably one of the most realistic. I think him and the family, honestly, family from Get Out, those are the two I feel like, for me personally, a little terrifying. A little terrifying, just because they feel like very realistic in a sense of there are people out there like this. There probably are some Jasons, some some Freddys and some Michael Myers in a different way, but like not, I think the idea of the fantasy behind those iconic characters and villains make them more fun to watch. Where Hannibal was just uncomfortable for me at some point. It's just uncomfortable. It was funny too sometimes. It's more uncomfortable. Just like it's just an old dude who's just just like a sick, sadistic, creepy motherfucker. Like, there's really nothing else you can say about Hannibal outside of that.
Right.
What do we think there, Deshaun, about some Hannibal?
Hannibal is a person I would never speak to or never walk past. Like I'm always gonna be scared of that type of person. Like I've always been like a little jaded. Like, hey, you like to play games psychologically. I'm not with that. Let me go to these other parts of the world or something like that.
Right, but that's also part of the terrifying thing about Hannibal Lecter is you say if you had the ability to not talk to this person or not interact with him, great, but literally his original profession was a psychologist, a therapist, so you might just end up sitting across from him, laying on the couch, and that's the thing, the idea of all the mental health issues that continue to be delved into year after year, and there's more research and more things being illuminated for us in great ways, but there's also some scary stuff where, like, I know it's um a bit of a trope, and not everyone agrees with this as much, but to a certain degree it's partly a stereotype, but I think something about therapists and psychologists, you could argue they're trying to treat people for their mental health issues, but a lot of them come with their own baggage, just like all of us humans. And so the fact that you could be sitting in a therapy room with someone who, okay, probably doesn't have as much baggage as Hannibal Lecter, but in his throughout time in history, there's been a couple who have gotten close.
Next on the list is the main man. These next couple ones, you guys are gonna have to help out a little bit. I haven't gotten as much into these. I did see the first Saw and was very, very impressed. To me, as a person who was a big film guy, things devolved a little bit as it went on into like kind of a torture porny realm that really wasn't for me as the films went on. But the first one I thought was very, very good. I enjoyed it very much. And Jigsaw is, of course, he got one of the best theme songs. He probably got the best theme song other than Michael Myers of any. And of course, unless you have the this James is a deep cut, I'm gonna have to share this with you at some point, or unless you have the Freddy synth pop band from the '80s, a record that came out. Have you ever heard? You know what I'm talking about? It's like one of the holy grails.
I am so excited to hear this and be illuminated.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna send it over to you when we get done to this. There was an album made by a synth pop band in the '80s that was contracted to make like a Freddy album, and like some of them are like kind of bangers. Like it's out of control. I'll send it over to you. I'll look up the name of it while you guys are talking because I have it saved. But Jigsaw probably has the best theme music of any of them. That Saw theme is tremendous, just musically. Talk to me about Jigsaw, the Saw series, James.
Right. So I got to be fully honest. The fact that we're talking about all these villains and how many how many years they've been around, but the fact that Jigsaw has not been around nearly as long in terms of compared to the others, these other folks, but still has so many movies. I got to be fully honest. I have not seen all of the Saw movies, but I've seen for sure the first one and bits and chunks of a bunch of the rest. And I've read up on the lore and read up on the characters and watched YouTube video analysis involved in each of them. So, or scratch whatever itch you've got. So the thing that I love about Saw and Jigsaw is, of course, okay, so you've got the idea of you got this man who went through a battle with cancer, and now he's making sure everybody else that he puts into these torture chambers fights for their life, and if they make it out, in his mind, they've been changed forever and appreciate life that much more than they ever did before. But the thing is, I completely understand people who argue that it's torture porn and that it's too grotesque and it's too much. But I do personally, as someone again who has grown up with these movies and can deal with a bit of gore, whether it's to a degree of a classic slasher movie or to the degree it goes to in Saw, I think there's something about the combination of human fight for survival in a just one room with one thing they have to deal with, and they're on the clock, and there's just something about, I mean, that's the reason why they've been able to make some of these movies in such short time. Is just there's something addictive about it once you get into it. So again, even though I've only seen the first movie, I am at some point, as soon as I am able, going to watch all the rest of them. And I think there's something about that fight for survival and that appreciation of life that, given all the horror things that we're dealing with today and how we have to fight tooth and nail just to get through each day here today, I think there's something to it and something universal.
Jigsaw just makes the list because he got a shit ton of movies, honestly, and he's just sadistic and sick. I mean, I haven't seen all the Saw movies. I'd rather not, honestly. I actually think, when I did the top horror franchises, like, it was almost begrudgingly. It's like a begrudgingly thing because it's like I'm not a big fan of Jigsaw. I think I know someone I went to do a thing with on Halloween some years ago. They dressed themselves up as like the little thing that rides around in a little bicycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was kind of funny. But other than that, I guess it's just Jigsaw is just like, some people say he's like a relatable character. I don't necessarily get that. I think he's kind of a loser in some way, but I mean, it's just my take. I will say there's like one movie where the actual Jigsaw person is not really in it that I saw, and I thought it was funny, and it's the Chris Rock edition of the Saw series, which is Spiral, and I think that's actually one of the funnier movies in the series. But I think that after the first 3 or 4, it just kind of all rolls together. But Jigsaw, because of what he represents and because of what he quote unquote stands for, that's why he made the list. But he would be like very much he's like at the bottom.
The first one was good because I feel like it made sense more than anything of the reason why most of these people was getting like dealt with like that. So it kind of made sense to me. Then after that, it just faded into like, I don't care no more. It's like it turned into like the Final Destinations to me. The more they kept going on, Jigsaw himself was great. I mean, I like Chris Rock being Spiral. I like that. That was dope to me. But as far as like Saul, it just faded into just one of them ones. Like they just kept making too many movies.
Norman Bates, Psycho. Drew, have you seen Psycho?
I've seen all of them. Yes.
Oh, okay. And Deshaun, have you seen Psycho? The first one.
That was on my list. That was gonna be on my list for another one I had to watch. I've been watching horror films all October.
James, talk to me about Psycho, man. I know you got some feelings and thoughts.
Well, here's the thing. Likewise, connecting this back to Hannibal Lecter, this is someone. This is a person that any one of us could run into in our daily lives, and it's something so frightening. Just the fact that there are people, again, bringing to light mental health issues is something we need to continue to do and continue to study and continue to analyze. And the fact that Norman Bates is one of the poster childs for mental health issues, to when they can of course go to the extreme, but even though it is some people could argue it's a made-up character, it is of course heavily based off of Ed Gein, and
another
that
character.
connection,
I think we'll just jump to the next character too, and we'll talk about this whole fucking thing.
Exactly, Leatherface.
The
There you
Ed
go.
Gein thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, but that's the thing with Norman is you've got someone who is seemingly plain innocent on the outside, but again with all the social commentary layers we've been talking about more so than ever before. Anybody these days should take any white man with a grain of salt and be careful anywhere around them. So the fact that Norman back in the day was able to do what he was able to do is truly terrifying. The fact that it continues to happen is that much more scary. Yep.
So Ed Gein recently had a Netflix series made about him, uh, and also there's a documentary, I believe, also on Netflix, breaking down the situation with this individual. I've been on the Ed Gein track for quite a while, because back in high school, a good buddy of mine was like a big Leatherface guy, and that's the next person on the list who also
Hmm.
is based in Ed Gein. Ed Gein was a man who lived on a farm in a small rural town in Wisconsin. Uh, Super. I mean, you got to watch the documentary to get the full scope, but some mental issues, connection with his mother. His mother passed away, passes the house down to him, and he does not want to let her go. Digs up her corpse, makes a suit out of the skin of his mother so he could wear his mother and feel close to her. Eventually escalates this to digging up other bodies, and making items, belts, cups, lampshades out of human skin. And he's just hanging out in this old farmhouse with skin dishes, eating beans,
Mm,
hanging out. Eventually,
mm,
escalates to murdering people, murdering live people, and taking them back and making items out of their skin as well, and necklaces out of their ears and crazy shit like that. Um, so there's two different lanes that these two movies base upon Ed Gein. Psycho was the connection and the obsession with his mother, which Psycho is based upon, and then and a lot of powerfully religious moralities, but like twisted in a way that has made this person mentally ill and mentally ready to attack people or do wrong to them. And then on the other hand, Leatherface, a man who's with a twisted family, isolated out there in Texas, making skin masks out of people's bodies. Um, Also based in Ed Gein and the terrifying house that the cops discovered when they discovered Ed Gein and the crimes that he committed in real life. Let's talk about some Leatherface, another iconic stream of movies. Tobe Hooper, just an iconic way of making film, the grainy, almost first person kind of, is this real? Is this not? Different cinema verte style of filming this movie that made it even more fucking terrifying when it came out. Talk to us a little bit about Texas Chainsaw Massacre there, James.
Right. Yeah. Again, another classic icon. You've got the Ed Gein connection. I think I was talking about this with Johnny recently as well. Our mutual friend. There's all those layers involved, and then what I especially love about Texas Chainsaw with Leatherface is you've got the animal cruelty, you've got the meat industry social commentary layers involved because everyone can remember some of the top whether it's the kill scenes in the movie or the getaway scene at the very end with the hysterical pulling away in the back of the bed of the truck, our final girl, or you've got Leatherface dancing in the street with his chainsaw, all ballet operatic style. But the thing at the end of the day that I think the biggest key takeaway from Texas Chainsaw is just bringing to light and I fully admit it, as I continue to eat and consume meat myself, I still can't think of certain meals that I've had that don't bring me back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the fact that earlier in the movie, one of the best scenes I think and most iconic things that people should take away is it was when the van pulls down the street across from the cattle slaughter. area where Leatherface himself may well have worked, as he is himself the butcher, and he, likes to kill people in any number of ways, but he's got the big old, cattle hammer, and hangs people on hooks and cooks them up and eats them. And like you said, like Ed Gein, makes trinkets and whatnot. But whether it's, bringing it back to Hannibal or other folks that cannibalize, I think it is that consumption of meat, human meat in these movies, but animal meat in general, that just brings that level of commentary that I think all of us need to continue to think about in the world that we live in, especially given how much the layers involved in the media industry affect the world we live in, whether it's in terms of climate change or what have you.
I just think that's one sick motherfucker. I mean, it's not really much else I can say about Leatherface. He's just sick and sadistic, and like that's one of the franchises where that's all you need, right? You just need somebody sick, got his chainsaw, he's walking and he's just carving people up and doing what you like. It's just like evil, and it's just really sick and evil. And it's funny, the Ed Gein stuff. I saw a little bit, I watched a little bit of it. I mean, I haven't had much time to watch anything. But Eric, you'll understand why that is. But there's a lot of stuff there for me where I was like before even watching the Netflix thing I think it was on Netflix with Ed Gein and stuff like that, watching a little bit of it. I just think Leatherface is just like sick, sadistic, and that's what you want in a horror villain. It's like, and I think he killed Trey Songz in one of those Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. I think. And for me, that gets you on any list. You kill Trey Songz in a movie, that gets you on any list for me. So,
I can't help but wait.
So real quick, I want to ask, just because we're talking about that, I can't believe there hasn't been a movie or something or a documentary based on this fucking dude. Have you ever heard James, mostly because I don't know if you guys, you strike me as a guy who maybe knows about infamous serial killers. Have you ever heard of Robert Pickton?
Yes.
How the fuck has that not been for you two, Deshaun? True, this fucking guy, he had a pig farm in Ontario, Canada. He used to throw like coke and hooker parties with the Hell's Angels. There's a bunch of bikers out there, a bunch of prostitutes from downtown Ontario, and they'd be a big coke and hooker party. And they'd just snatch up a couple of the girls and chop them up and feed them to the pigs. It turns out in the end, he had murdered 50 women out on this fucking thing over 6 years. Fucking crazy. Robert Pickton, look it up. Insane. I don't know how there's not a major documentary or a movie or fucking nothing about that fucking dude. Out of control, man. Or like a True Detective season. That shit would rock. You know what I'm saying? Like
the pig farm killer.
We're deep into the show. It's about that time. Get some of the heavy hitters out.
Let's go.
The big man, Jason. Friday the 13th again. Speaking of movies that were quite different when the first one came out, and then it turned into a series, and how naked are the women going to be? How elaborate are the kills going to be? That's what the movies turned into. But the original one was quite mysterious and quite scary, and a lot of crazy. There's a great documentary series about the Jason the film IP that you can find on Amazon. James, obviously this is like asking True to summarize Tupac for me or whatever. I know it's tough. Talk to me about Jason and the Friday the 13th movies, man.
Right. So, I mean, that's the thing is you've got the first movie, like you said, and it's got the mystery involved with it and leading to, spoiler alert, the fact that it is Jason's mom in the end who is the actual villain. The only thing Jason related we see is at the very end in terms of the child jumping out of the lake. It's the evolution from that first movie, that core mother's instinct to protect her child, and once that mission seemingly in her eyes has like whether or not to whatever degree she takes responsibility for failing in terms of I listening to a shout out to another great podcast, How Did This Get Made, recently, that's done a couple episodes on some Friday the 13th movies. The fact June Diane Rayfield recently commented on the idea that, there's some blame that the mother should have taken upon herself for sending a kid who couldn't swim to that degree to a camp that's based off of, being on a lake and doing all these kind of water sports activities. Now, here's
It's
the thing.
literally
She takes
called
it out on the
Camp Crystal Lake. Yeah.
Exactly. Lake is in the name. Yeah. So, but the fact that, she takes it on the camp counselors who also, weren't paying attention and were, of course, having sex and fooling around. And, the fact that, again, in that first movie, it is the mom who's the villain. And then the second movie, Jason hasn't even gotten the mask yet. It's not until Jason 3D, the third movie, that he's able to acquire the hockey mask and fully embraces the machete. And then, go on from there, whether it's, Jason Takes Manhattan or Jason X when he goes to space. The sky's the limit, just like with the Fast and Furious series. You can start street racing and then you can end up having cars go in space, or ride on Arctic ice and fight nuclear submarines. There's something about Jason and about these movies that continues, like these other movies, continues to have a connection over time to all of us. And the fact that it's a story about a child that was wronged. We've all had fear, whether we have kids or not, in terms of just the idea of the youth, that are out there and are being wronged in any number of ways, and what someone would do, not only to protect a child, but then if for whatever reason they weren't able to protect that child, then seek revenge on those who they feel were responsible is something that I think is definitely strikes a chord.
True. Talk to me about the big dog, Jason.
I really don't have much to say outside of he went to space. I mean, like that's it. Like that's it. Like for me, like I've seen all the Friday the 13th movies, but like that particular one, I was like, bro, there's no way. Like I had seen like Killer Clowns from Outer Space and like movies like that, but like, come on, man. Like Jason went to space, and then like he fought. He's like one of the first villains to have a movie against another villain. Like,
so that's something to really crack into. Probably don't have time tonight, but like when we talk about things like this, like iconic and like influence, that was like one of the first things of that degree where there was like a real legitimate IP crossover. Before we had the MCU, before we had the DCU, before this was like the way that everything worked. I feel like Freddy versus Jason was like the first. I'm trying to think. I feel like Freddy versus Jason was like the first major thing like that to cross IPs in that level of, there was obviously on the True, you probably were just about the age. Deshaun's probably the age. There was the legendary Ninja Turtles Power Rangers crossover on Fox Kids TV. But as far as movies, I don't remember a crossover of this prestige, of this level before this. And then, it's kind of become the way that all movies kind of work now. So that, Freddy versus Jason is definitely in this conversation as like, this is why these guys are because that was one of the only things, so many horror movies are kind of like, oh, it's kind of like niche, low budget, but they make a lot of money because people like them. But like, how much mainstream how much mainstream popularity do they really have? But you were able to do one of the first huge genre crossover movies with two horror icons, and like, and I believe it was I want to say Jason Goes to Hell. I can't remember which one exactly it was, but like, there's the after scene where Jason's mask gets snatched by Freddy. And it was and then, everybody went fucking crazy, and it took 10 years for us to get the movie, but it was a huge fucking deal when it came out. So that's definitely has a part in this. Keep going though, True.
I mean, like I said, it's just not much to say, man. I just think, like icon status. It's just, you can walk outside like Friday. You'll go outside Friday, see how many masks you'll see how many people see dressed up like that. Like that to me is the mark of like a classic character. Because everybody's gonna find, like, I've already seen people dressed up as like Smoke and Mary from Sinners or whatever, or Stack, whatever. Like
generational too. You'll see kids, Friday night
like,
dressed up as Jason. They ain't been a Jason movie in 15 fucking years.
Yeah, and so I think that's what it is. I mean, he had a video game at one point too. Like, there's it's just Jason is just. I mean, it's just like you can't. It's hard to replicate that level of legendary status in the horror genre because, like, how many horror video games have there been from an actual film series? There's if you were a gamer and you play some of those like Japanese horror video games, they're fucking terrifying. But
Mm-hmm.
to take something like a Jason and make a video game out of it, to have it be such a big part of the like pop culture lexicon and just all around, it just Jason and Friday the 13th in general. Like even think about it now, right? When Friday the 13th comes up, you get that doesn't happen often. When it comes up, people think it's just embedded in our brains so
Yep.
much. And Jason is he's just one of those. I think he honestly to me is probably like maybe the most iconic in terms of like longevity, in terms of like how much like you see like Ghostface, and some people still dress up as Freddy Krueger. And I still think Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street to me is like the number one for me, just because of what it represented and what I saw growing up. It had like that effect where you saw people with the Krueger hands, but like Jason with the machete and the mask, like that's right there. That's why they were the two that they chose to put in Freddy versus Jason, because they were the iconic villains of a time and an era, and they still have that I guess that same star power. They still have that.
Sean, talk about Jason, man.
The hockey mask is iconic.
Mm-hmm.
It's iconic. Like, I have a part-time job at the mall, so they already dressing like Jason already. So I've been seeing it like low key all week leading up to like Friday. Bullying, how bullying can really like affect a child or like affect a person like that. Like we really have to be leery because you just never know what could happen. You just never know what the type of person can turn into.
Again, as we continue to learn more, even though it is a stereotype and a trope, I mean, the idea of childhood trauma and what it can do to a person, and then what it can, some people are able to deal with it and move on and grow up to be perfectly fine, fully functioning folks. But again, in today's day and age where things are getting crazier and crazier and seemingly worse and worse in various ways each day, anything that happens to us when we're young is going to have that much more of an effect in terms of how we develop. So I completely agree.
One of the most iconic, like again, people you're gonna see dressed up as all over the place coming up on Friday.
Well, I'm not like Scream movies for me. Scream movies for me, I've watched all of them, and I think they are progressively like more ridiculous and kind of like dumb. But the first one, I think the first one to me, the fake out of having Drew Barrymore be like the face of the movie, and then she like dies in like the opening scene. I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
great. That was awesome. And then like Nev Campbell, obviously, I know she was on like Party of Five and The Craft and stuff like that too. So she was like, but that's kind of what pushed in, catapulted her. I mean, Courtney Cox obviously from Friends, David Arquette, like it kind of helped. And then Jamie Kennedy was in the first one. Like the first one has like, very iconic, and you had Skeet Ulrich and a couple of God, his name Matthew something.
Lillard.
Lillard, yeah. Like so, they had a lot of like younger actors at the time who went on to have like really like good careers, and so I think the first one just represents something, and so Ghostface became kind of like that like want to watch a scary, what's your favorite scary movie? Like that type of stuff makes people like, oh, this was kind of cool and it was fun, and people used to like prank their friends with stuff like that. But I think that's what makes the villains so iconic, is that anybody, if you really wanted to, if you were that sick, could do this in reality. That's what makes Ghostface like people at school, like think about high school kids, and like it's a kind of a dark way to think of it, because like this is your mom. I'm thinking in the first one, like, yeah, your mom did this and your mom caused my divorce or some shit, so I killed her and I'm killing you. Like it just to me it was like suburban problems, like because that was a foreign concept to me growing up. Like when I saw it, I was like, you doing all this because that happened? Like your mom, like her mom's the reason why you like your dad left or something. Like okay, like all right, it's strange, but whatever. But I think that motivation then took to like, I think Scream 2 sucks. I think Scream 3, 4, they all suck. I think they all kind of suck, but they all represent how iconic. Like even with Scary Movie, right? Like Scary Movie was a great parody of like all these horror movies, but Scary Movie, the main focus was Ghostface because that's how impactful Scream was to pop culture, which is why
Right.
Ghostface could be anything. That's the thing. Ghostface could be anybody. It's different. It's different, right? Like Jason is Jason, Freddy's Freddy. Pinhead's Pinhead. Like that's who they are. Ghostface is never the same person. Mostly because Ghostface dies in every movie, and then they find somebody else to do it. But like that's still the kind of crux of what makes it a good villain is that anybody can step into that role as long as you have that I guess robe and that mask, you can do it. And I think the whole concept of the Stab series is like it's really cheesy, but it pokes fun at itself, and I do like that about because it doesn't take itself too serious. And to me, that's a good thing in some ways because it is outlandish, it is ridiculous, but it is slightly realistic too. How many times have people had like a bunch of murders happen in a small town or big town, and people trying to figure it out, and then you can't find like that. That's a realistic thing, and that is what makes Ghostface to me more of an iconic villain is because anybody can be Ghostface, like anybody could. And sometimes you wouldn't expect that person who ends up being that. Most of the times in the movie you do expect it, but like there's like once or twice where you're like, oh, I kind of didn't see that coming, but that's it's just the mask, the what's your favorite scary movie, like the whole presentation of the villain is what makes Ghostface so great. But the Scream movies, like I said, I don't have many great things to say about them.
James, talk to me about the Scream movies and Ghostface as an icon of horror.
Yeah, I think all those points were beautifully said. I think the fact that again, like was just mentioned, speaking of these characters in terms of the character carrying on through these movies, but now with Scream, you've got the idea of that villain can live on forever, even though it's not the original person who embodied it, and especially given the fact that in the original movie, you've got two people. I know, in all the sequels, there's usually two people, but in at least one of them, there's just one. I believe the third one, in terms of one person embodying the Ghostface character. But the idea that in the original there are not only one but two people going back and forth, switching between the killings. It's one of those things where that character can live on for however long Hollywood wants to. Yeah, like you said, whether the quality of the movies is good or not, Hollywood is just fine. Putting out whatever it can to make whatever buck it can. But still, the ghost face, the mask, the robe, the knife, it lives on, and I think it's something worthy of being on this list.
I feel like that mask itself is probably top 3 greatest mask ever. But the movies itself, it wasn't nothing to rave home about. It wasn't nothing to like, that was a good one. But what like everybody else has alluded to, anybody can get in that ghost mask and do what they need to do. Anybody can play that role and just really tap into that role.
I think that'd be a fun argumentative pod to have or paper to write or something like that. Is like, is that mask technically, is there an argument that that's the most that is the most iconic horror image that exists? When you say iconic, it means you see it and people instantly associate it with what it is about. I'd say it's right up there with Jason's mask, as far as that goes.
I saw somebody with a ghost face mask on. It's probably like 5-6 years ago, and I punched him in the face. That's how iconic. Because I thought they were legitimately trying to come up on some bullshit, and I was like, "Fuck that, bow!" And that was my quick reaction. And I'm thinking, man, imagine how many people probably have this same reaction because that face. It's like you don't know what somebody's intentions really are behind that, especially in today's like in the world we live in. Like we have some like very sinister minded people that have always existed, but like when you can hide behind an iconic mask, you could walk up on somebody and then just do something. You could rob somebody with that mask on, and that was happening quite a bit over the years. It's happened quite a bit with people wear like Halloween, people dress up and do real sick, sinister shit, and so that's what I think the Jason mask not so much. Like for people, but like the Scream mask is like because you're covering your whole body, you're covering your face. Like that's what makes it so iconic in that way is because people can use it for anything they want, which is dangerous and terrifying in that way. And that's what, like I said, it's just anybody could be Ghostface. Anybody. Like you can't really
Mhm.
replicate Freddy, but it don't really, it don't really work the same. Whereas you could just put on the mask and the gear, and that's it. Like you could wear some cowboy boots under there. Nobody can really know because you can't see it. So that's what, like I said, that's just Ghostface, man. Ghostface is probably the most iconic of the last, I'd say last 30, 35 years. Definitely the most iconic of the last 30 years, for sure.
Easily.
Down to the three big dogs. This one is not one that I'm particularly. I appreciate the iconic nature of the look. I appreciate that people still to this day, like a ton of people dress up like this, but I never really did the Hellraiser movies. So James, jump on in, man. Tell me why the Pinhead thing resonates with people. Tell me about these movies. Tell me about their impact.
It is all it is pleasure plus pain. You know, you've got the fact that, especially in the original, the exploration of, whether you want to call it BDSM, or dom and sub, now that has been taking off more than ever, in terms of folks talking about how folks do what they do behind closed doors. It's something that, sexual activity, however you want to do it. um it always is, bordering on a primitive, uh deep down. Some people, I think, as long as it's adults who are consenting these days, it is a beautiful thing. But unfortunately, throughout history, since the beginning of time, humans are derivative of that have been getting it on. There's always something that can go very wrong and become abusive and or evil, to whatever extreme. So the fact that you've got Pinhead tapping into that, but of course, in his dialogue, he's focusing on the pleasure and the pain that comes, along, tied together. Literally, that's why he's got the chains. Such an iconic part of Pinhead's weapon, item use iconography is the chains with the hooks. Again, connecting back to Leatherface, who also likes to put people up on hooks. So it's something that, food, sleep, and sex. Those are the three core things that we need. And so sex, tapping into that for a horror franchise is going to connect to a character and have it be that much more universal in terms of connecting to the rest of us. So I think, again, in terms of quality, again, we have been saying this a lot in terms of the first one being the best. But despite that fact, for many years, including the recent remake, it doesn't seem like it's gonna go away anytime soon.
True, talk to me about some Pinhead, man.
Uh, he pretty much summed it up, man. I could see James was looking for the right words. In Ceci describing sexual activity. For me,
Yep.
I'm a little more blunt. People like getting down, people like getting freaky, and without saying too much about myself, I'm 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 all about that for people. And I will say the exploration of, like, BDSM and the whole, you know in some way it's about, your control, right? Like your control over your lust, your control over your addictions. Almost, it's like a control thing. And so that's what it represents. And I think it's such a it's such a not taboo thing to talk about, especially not now. But I think back then that was so taboo in a way that, like, people went to, like, with Studio 54. They had a whole bunch of, like, coke binge orgies and stuff like that. I mean, that's one thing, but it's like it was almost like a outcasted thing for people to wear the leather, the BDSM, like the chains, the whips. Like, it was almost like, oh, people do that, but they don't really. It's not open. And so I felt like with Pinhead, I mean, there obviously is a deeper, darker element to it as well because of the, other parts of what happens in the movie. But it is to me, he's like the most sexually charged villain that's not actually like himself. Really, like sex. Like, it's weird. It's hard to describe in that way, but I just think someone who can tap into the that element of control and your desires almost is it's I think it's not so much of a sadistic thing for me, but it's just some I think it's a outside of the pins in the head part, like it feels like a very realistic thing that could happen. And also kind of a like Hellraiser just wasn't a series that like scared me. It was almost something that make you it just makes you wonder more so than anything. Like this is what happens when this happens, or this is what could happen for people who this that like there's just different elements of it, and I think it's a good series that kind of is like underappreciated in the genre a little bit, like a slightly underappreciated. Like people don't put the Hellraiser films in the same category as they put like the Scream films, and the success doesn't can't replicate the success of like the Friday the 13th films and Scream and stuff like that. But I think they have more of a not message, so to speak, but more of more there's more rhyme and reason behind the Hellraiser films than I'd say some of the others.
Black leather and a lot of zippers.
There we go.
Hmm.
Black leather and a lot of zippers. Like Hellraiser, which is crazy. The movie Hellraiser always used to come on TNT until I finally like sat down and actually watched it. And I was like, this is what this movie was always about. Cause you just see something on TV, you just keep passing it by, especially if it's
Yeah.
scary enough to you ain't gonna just sit there and watch it until you just become older and just like, okay, now I understand what this was about. I ain't scared of it because like everybody done said, it's just a man with like pins sticking out his head. I equate it to like in the glass. I mean, I want to say it's a movie where a guy he has nails stuck in his head. 13 Ghosts, right? The hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
equate that to that. Like it's something like you're not regularly going to see, but black leather and a lot of zippers, you might see that every day.
Well,
Hmm.
yeah, running in some circles. Um, all right. So we're down to the two big dogs. We'll talk about the reason for the season. This man is synonymous with this holiday of Halloween, like Santa is with Christmas, like the leprechaun is with St. Patrick's Day. Shout out to the leprechaun from Leprechaun 2, by the way. That's a whole nother
Hmm.
that's a whole nother damn fucking that's a whole nother pod. Leprechaun in the Hood in and of itself is a whole other pod after that. But this man is related with this season. Of course, I'm talking about Michael Myers, Halloween, John Carpenter, the score of all scores. Uh, Obviously iconic because of the idea. There's so many different concepts that go into this movie that make it terrifying, that make it relatable. The thought that this could actually happen, that somebody could escape a mental institution and on Halloween night and just blend in with everybody else, and nobody would know that this unstoppable killer is in their midst and menacing everybody in society. Uh, so much to say, so much that can be said. James, tough assignment, but undertake it for me. Talk to me about Halloween, Michael Myers.
Thank you, sir. This is why I am here. And I don't just mean right now, tonight on this podcast episode. I mean why I am here in the house that I'm living in now, the state of mind I'm in, the career I'm in. Because, whether or not it all seems connected or not, this is the first horror movie iconic villain that I latched onto when I was a kid. I was 10 years old. And again, bringing it back to what I mentioned back with the Alien series, with the Xenomorph that we talked about earlier on this episode, this was a movie that I saw on VHS from my local four-star video rental store where I grew up in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. I actually didn't pick this one up. I had a friend, thankfully, I had a friend who was able to acquire this VHS tape, bring it back to their place, and then invite me over and literally changed my life forever because it was from that point on that I was not only hooked on horror movies in general, but movies, just cinema, and because before that, of course, I had grown up and watched all kinds of different movies, whether it was Disney or any other movie, what have you. Something about Halloween H2O. Now, some people will argue it's, by far not the best in the series, but I still to this day have such fond memories and such a connection to this movie because, like I said, this is the reason why I'm here. Halloween H2O brought Michael Myers into my life, and he has never left. And it is for so many reasons why I and so many others have been able to get into horror. That was the thing. He was 1978 in terms of the original Halloween movie. 1979, we then got Alien with the Xenomorph, and then throughout the 80s, we got Jason, and then the 90s we got Hannibal Lecter. So if you want to go back, you've got Halloween. If you want to go, even further back, you could argue you've got Peeping Tom and Blood and Black Lace and Dario Argento's Deep Red in terms of influencing slasher films and The Town That Dreaded Sundown. But in
Yeah.
terms of the Halloween franchise, Michael Myers. He was my first. He'll be my last. I loved the idea of him, as terrifying and as despicable as the things as he has done are and is. This so that's and the other beautiful thing I want to mention about the fact that I saw this on VHS in the summer of 2000 when I was 10 years old is not only did I watch this movie, but the same day it was a double feature of my friend introducing me to this movie and also Deep Blue Sea, which in and of itself is an amazing horror movie and
Yes, sir.
part of the reason why I love sharks to the degree I do. But also the fact that you had both of those movies back to back in a double feature for me, so transformative, and the fact that you had LL Cool J surviving both of them, in and of itself iconic. So there's that.
I just want to point out that Halloween H2O, I appreciate that it's mentioned
Yes.
because of
Mhm.
LL Cool J has, for some reason, this is strange to me. LL Cool J back in the day seemed to always survive the movies that he was in, except like Rollerball, whatever it was. He died in that movie, and I never understood that. But
Right.
that's another thing. But he was like always surviving his movies, and I watched Halloween H2O. It's actually one of the first Halloween movies that I watched. And I remember just because there was like this, it felt like seeing more black people in the Halloween movies made me want to like watch it for some reason. Like, oh man, they got LL's in the movie, and then Buster was in with Halloween Resurrection, and so like there was something there where I started to feel slightly connected to the movies, and so that's what made me watch it. And then the whole idea of Michael Myers, I was always curious because I heard about it when I was younger, and then like I didn't know it. Like I was late to the party on the Halloween movies. Like I just knew the iconic theme, and I think what Michael Myers represents is pretty much just that character that, I mean, it's like a lot of people's fear. Michael Myers represents a lot of people's biggest fear. Someone that escapes, that is unstoppable almost. I mean, the motherfucker, I mean, he's dead now. We think, right? We think until they resurrect, resurrect him and bring him back or something, or somebody else takes on the mantle, or he finds out he somehow had a kid or somewhere. There's gonna be something that happens where they're gonna bring him back. But like, even the way he went out, like the last Halloween movies, I'm like iffy on those. I thought the way that they ended it, especially with like putting them in the thing and incinerator or whatever, and it was just that's not the way I wanted to see my guy go out. But I guess that's the only way he could have went out. But I just thought it was a little cheesy. But I think like Michael Myers just represents like a lot of people's biggest fear. He's evil personified. Basically, that's essentially what makes Michael Myers Michael Myers. He's evil personified, and that is what you need in an iconic character that will just do whatever and stop at nothing to get their objective done. And in his case, his objective is just to kill people and like fuck shit up. Like that's pretty much it. There's not much of a, to me, there's not much of a method to the madness, especially after you get beyond like I don't know how many movies there are, and then the Rob Zombie like series is like
so real quick. Hold on. So I think that's right. That what plays on the keys on the psychology is like these people that you just want to forget. You lock them up, throw away the key, and
Yeah.
like they come out more beast, they come out more animal than they are person, and they're unstoppable. I was gonna ask James, since he's like the big Michael Myers guy. Do you get down with the Rob Zombie ones? Any take on those?
So yes and no. So here's the thing. I think the first Rob Zombie Halloween movie does have a lot of stuff that I thought was very entertaining when I first watched it, and continue in any subsequent watches. I think there are, of course, some faults to it, but I think it is definitely a movie worthy in place of the franchise. The second Rob Zombie movie, I don't think I know anyone ever who has said much of anything good in terms of it. Don't get me wrong, there's some things you could cherry pick here and there if you're really reaching, but yeah, as far as that goes, the first one's great. The second one, you could take it or leave it.
Michael Myers itself, I always thought it was low key kind of fake. I'm gonna be honest, because how I always thought like, man, there's no way a mental patient can like just escape. They're like I always thought like that. No, they're gonna have like precautions everywhere to make sure a mental patient don't escape. Until I worked in a mental hospital and one of them escaped.
Hmm.
It changed my whole perspective. I was like, oh shit, it could be some Michael Myers out here. Like
There we
I,
go.
I was aloof to it until you got to touch the stove. You got to see if the fire's hot. And I realized that I was like, oh nah, like that really could happen. He could be among us. So like to know like a person can escape and then a person can be among you and they can just be punching people into like what I think Buster Rhymes he got punched into a tree and he exploded or something like that. Somebody else got mega punched. Another person got kicked to death. Like it was just so much killing in Halloween. But I feel like that movie is great. Shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Hey,
Hmm.
JLC. Uh, Speaking of somebody who could be among us, number one, we're at the end. We all dream, and the guy who was ranked at the top of this list, Freddy Krueger. Uh, Again, I think when you talk about iconic, when you talk about things that have become part of culture, Freddy Krueger is way up there as a crossover star. As everybody knows, the iconic look, the iconic gloved hand, the way it developed into quips later on, but in the beginning was a very serious and very scary movie. One of my all-time favorite like bars ever from any movie. He's chasing the girl in the street. She says, oh my God," and Freddy brings up his claws and says, "This is God," and that's just that all time stuck with me. Um, the effects, the way it changed over time. I believe it's the second one that's kind of a revolutionary as far as like representation for gay people. Number three, Dream Warriors completely flips it and empowers the handicapped and has black characters represented well. Something that wasn't really going on back then. Um, and then later on, we talked about the crossover Freddy versus Jason. Those were the only two guys you could really do this with. On and on and on. I really can't say enough about this franchise, about this character, about the characterization. Uh, Talk to me about it, James.
Right. So, like was mentioned before, the idea that Freddy can, tap into people's dreams, and the fact that we all go to sleep every night, and whether you remember your dream or not, the idea that there could be an entity in there messing around in the most, evil and perturbed and messed up ways. It's something that just the idea of it, whether you've seen these movies or not, you've heard of Freddy Krueger, you've seen him, and the idea of nightmares actually affecting us in real life, and us not being able to escape them because we all have to sleep again, whether it's eating, sleeping, or having sex. These are the core of our beings, and there can be an evil entity tied to them and shown to us in the to the nth degree through all these Freddy the Krueger movies. And you hit the nail on the head in terms of the crossover thing with Freddy and Jason being one of the most influential and initial movies to be able to do that, because that's the thing, it was 2003, and then literally 2004, a year after that, that's when Alien versus Predator first came out, the first Alien versus Predator movie. Whether or not that had been explored earlier with the comics and whatnot, but in terms of making the movie, like you said, it took 10 years from the initial concept to have the Freddy versus Jason thing come to life in a movie. And the fact that, the idea that Freddy is fucking around with Jason's dreams, and this entity, that we are so afraid of in that being of Jason, the fact that he could be fucked with by
Victimized.
Freddy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, I absolutely can see anyone's argument for this being the top dog. Again, for me personally, strictly because of a historical thing and way I've been able to grow up with Michael Myers, he'll always personally be number one for me. But I love Freddy as well, and he has been, giving us frights and connecting with folks around the world for years, and will continue to do so.
True, you'll like this. When I was a kid about this age, I had the Freddy nightmare, and uh in the dream, Ahmed Johnson saved me. Per river plunge, baby. And then I wasn't
That's
scared.
hilarious.
Then I wasn't, yeah, right. That's great, right? I wasn't scared no more. Deshaun, talk to me about Freddy, man.
Freddy is probably the best because at the end of the day, everybody want to go to sleep. Everybody want to go to sleep, or everybody want to have like you know what I'm saying, a wet dream. Could you imagine having a wet dream and then a blade come out of nowhere and just slice you?
Mm.
Like that's some of the most like sick stuff ever. Cause some of the wet dreams be some of the greatest, and the next thing you know, you got like nails just coming out the sheets, slicing you open.
I mean, that's what some of the dreams was in those movies. If you guys watch them,
Yep.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
yep.
True
So
goes and
Yep.
take us. True go
Then
and
you got
take
the
us home,
Hellraiser
man.
connection.
Yeah.
Uh,
True go and
you
take
know,
us home, man. Talk to me about
I mean,
some Freddy,
Freddy.
bro.
I'm not gonna lie, Freddy is like the scariest, but like the funniest of the villains to me.
Oh, of
Like he's just
course,
like
yeah.
fucking hilarious. And so I think when you have a villain that can not only tap into people's innermost fears, but also just be hilarious at the same time.
Hmm.
Pop bars
Like
on you, yeah. While
yeah,
he's doing his thing.
like he's talking shit. He's about to kill you, and like on top of about to kill you, be gonna get his jokes off too. I mean, there's nothing more terrifying than somebody who's
Right,
like has that
disrespectful, yeah.
power. Yeah, like you have that power, and then like on top of that, like this is a joke to you. It's just funny to you. Like I'm a client. Like this is funny. It's a joke. Okay, and so that's what makes I think. When they explored a lot of stuff in like the new Nightmare and like a whole bunch of different ones. Like Freddy has a daughter and it's that, and it's just like there's just different things they explored, and I like it got a little ridiculous after a while. But I think what makes Freddy so iconic is like everybody said, everybody has to go to sleep, and so that's like. And a nightmare is something that many of us have experienced. Maybe you didn't have some like strange dude would have had a little kind of weird and maybe never had that happen. But it's just the idea that that could happen, or the concept that that is a possibility. That's what makes I think Freddy so terrifying, but also so iconic. And it's one of those characters that you're always going to see people on Halloween dressed up as Freddy because of the
Hmm.
fact the attire, just everything, putting on the mask for the disfigured face with with the glove and all. It's like it just represents something, and people love what they love. Halloween horror, like the horror genre in general, like people love what they love. Freddy is someone who has become a beloved villain, like one of the probably the most beloved villain to me in terms of like you don't like. I think if you saw Freddy like chilling down the street, I think people be scared, but people also be like, "Oh shit, that's Freddy Krueger." Like that's how I think. If you see Jason, you're like, "Oh shit, that's Jason. We going the other way." But people be like, "Oh snap, that's Freddy Krueger." Like, and Freddy might even joke and laugh with you before he kill you. Like he might actually
Hmm.
like joke and laugh and like, "Yeah, boom, you dead." Like that's Freddy. So I think that's what makes Freddy so iconic in that way, is that because like they don't give villains like personality that often. Like that often. Like Michael Myers has like no personality like that.
Certainly
He doesn't
not
talk.
like this. I can't think
Yeah.
of any. Maybe Chucky. Like I can't think of anybody else who has personality like to this level.
And I think that's what it is. It almost humanizes the most scariest villain in that way, because he like talks and he has a daughter at some point, and he has this, he has like there's different things that happen with Freddy where I'm just like, I see what they're doing. Probably wouldn't have done it that way, but also another character that does have video games out there as well. And there, like I said, there's not a lot of hard, like you can go down the list, and there's not a lot of them that have like video games, especially video games that people actually enjoyed. That's also another one. Like like people actually enjoyed the video games, and he's a character on like Mortal Kombat. He's become, there's a few horror villains that make it to those crossover landscapes, and Freddy is probably the biggest one. Like I remember the commercial for Freddy in Mortal Kombat was like huge. Like it was like all over. People were like, "Oh shit, we get to go Freddy!" Like, and that's what to me kind of like where your crossover appeal is, where you are in pop culture, how important you are as a character. Freddy is probably like right up there, and I don't think. And so I got people text me when that trailer dropped, and it's like, "Yo, Freddy gonna be on like Mortal Kombat." Oh shit! Like it's just that excitement. That what other villain are you gonna get that with? You're not gonna get that with many villains.
I don't think there's anybody who has this sadistic level, like this level of sadistic and kills, who is also like fucking beloved by many people.
Right,
That's
and part of that is the fact that shout out to director Wes Craven. Again, you've got the idea that Wes Craven not only created this character and carried them forward, but really revolutionized, again, whether it's helping lending this character to Freddy versus Jason to create that crossover, or having the ability to make New Nightmare with Freddy and create a meta contextual narrative that has literally affected, to the nth degree. People have, made things meta enough that'll make your head spin. But it was Wes Craven with New Nightmare who did it first, and then after that led to the meta factors that were involved in the Scream franchise. So there you go.
Tremendous. This has been a good one. We hope that all of you out there have enjoyed this while getting prepared for a wonderful night of spooks and scares, hopefully treats and tricks. Some tricking out there. We hope you all have a wonderful, safe, sugar-filled Halloween, and even in spooky season, the world of DAR never stops.